We are live once again, back again, with today's episode of Pinballers, followed by, at 8 o'clock, the live matching game. So, it's a, it's a tough one, pal. We're down three Pinballers. Does anyone know where David went?
He went to the ER apparently.
The ER. Is he
Yeah.
okay? What's he got?
He hit his head or something?
Oh my
I don't
goodness.
know.
That
He's
is,
getting his head
Yeah.
checked out. So,
all right. Man, well wishes to David. Better news on the Brennan and Amber front. Brennan and Amber are on vacation. Where? They got engaged. Congratulations, you two.
yes.
Awesome.
Congrats.
Mm-hmm.
Got engaged on a beach.
That's that's about the best you can do this year. That's pretty fantastic. Getting
Mm-hmm.
engaged on a beach. Yeah, yeah. I'm wishing them well. Hope they continue to have a good vacation, and we will see them, I believe, next week. But Austin, what have you been up to as far as pinball goes?
As far as pinball goes, I've been obsessing over the Metallica
Uh-huh.
and then looking at what additional mods I may be able to do on it, and that actually led me to finding out that there's actually a couple of mods that someone created that will help with the lost ball problem on Alice Cooper Nightmare Castle. So it's been fun.
You've just been modding pinball machines left and right, huh?
Yeah, well, preparing to. I put in an order last night based on some searches. But yeah, it's interesting for sure.
Why doesn't that surprise
It's
me?
it's a it's a deep rabbit hole for sure. But once you get into modding pinballs, I actually came across a Facebook group where the only machines they highlight are completely customized machines, and so there are some people out there that are doing rethemes that will blow your mind.
That sounds like fun.
Uh, Denton Heat had quite a bit of modding to it, actually. It was
Yeah, Denton. It was a good retheme. Denton Heat was,
mm-hmm.
which is a good topic considering Denton. Yeah, Denton was I think the most heavily Denton Heat was the most heavily rethemed one inside of Free Plays collection for sure.
Yeah, by far and wide. That was a completely reskinning of Hollywood Heat. Let me get the chat up here. There we go. Now we can see the chat. Yeah. Fixed it. I don't. I'm not terribly familiar with Hollywood Heat. I've seen the backglass and know exactly why they went ahead and reskinned it. Um, but I've played Denton Heat quite a bit, and I know James put a ton of work into it, changing all the decals. Well, maybe it does still say Hollywood Heat on the middle, but many of the decals and the back glass, and he was working on the audio when the news hit. In fact, he may still be working on the audio. Who knows? Because he is still at work plugging away, taking care of what happened at Free Play Denton. Which, by the way, if you haven't heard the news, Free Play Denton is closed. We closed it down, I guess not Sunday, but the Sunday before that, right? Every day is blending together. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the last day that Free Play Denton was open. So just yet another casualty of the pandemic. I guess let's throw it around and I guess start with Shannon. Like, what are your memories of Free Play Denton?
Not enough, unfortunately.
You got
Um,
there a lot though, right?
Not really. No. Not as much as I would have liked to. But I really liked Denton. I really liked hanging out outside of Denton a
Mm.
lot because you could
Right.
take your beers out there and everyone would just chill in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Evidently, Denton doesn't have liquor laws.
oh, they do.
No, they're just very confusing to me. You
On the
can drink
square, you
outside.
can do whatever you want, apparently.
Yes.
But I believe that's only for the square.
Hmm.
Pretty sure I've gotten public intox outside of the square before.
Breaking news.
Surprise. Uh, so yeah, I mean, I'm really sad it's gone. I would have been a lot more sad if I was still living out there,
Uh-huh.
obviously. Um, hello. That's funny. But yeah, I'm gonna miss especially the employees and our Denton people. I mean, I'll still get to see a lot of the Denton people,
Right.
Richardson or whatever. But
Yeah, a lot of us went out to Arlington last Friday, and then on Fort Worth the next Saturday. So I mean, I've seen pretty much everybody except for Paul and Emily since the closing at
yeah,
one of the free plays.
yep. Yeah, I
And
see
I'm sure
most people
Emily
on
will be.
Friday.
Actually, no, I saw Emily as well because she was at Tuesday Night Fights, 8 days ago. So
It sucks, but
very
at
much
least
so.
we still have free play. I'm just happy we still have free play. Period.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So do you remember any good games, good pinball stories from Denton? Did you grind away in the back at all with
Man,
all those different machines?
I mean, just my typical go in, throw the headphones on, and enjoy. But I don't have any crazy stories or I got nothing.
What about you, Austin?
So, Denton for us, it's kind of interesting, is probably, well, it is, on any given moment, at any location, right, depending on traffic and everything else, it's the farthest away from where we live. And here's the interesting thing. We used to go out there all the time.
Yeah.
So, we're known for kind of going to all the locations. And Denton, much like every free play location to us, has its own personality, right?
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
it's not like we like one better than another.
Mm.
We would regularly go out there, and Tracy can nod over here if she wants and correct me if I'm wrong, but like a Friday or Saturday night
Mm-hmm.
was a typical venture out there for us. We would so this is going to sound either extremely committed or extremely troublesome, but free play for us is it's a holds a special place in our heart. And so free play Denton, because it was so far away, we'd usually get a hotel room not far away from free play Denton because it's a minimum good day, good time. No matter what time of day you depart, it's an hour and 15 minutes one way, maybe an hour and a half. So by the time you get out there, perhaps you enjoy yourself, you have a couple of drinks, it seemed the safer bet. So we would regularly stay in a hotel right down the road, and we would make an evening of it. We would close it down regularly, and we did that every week,
Wait,
week
the
in
2
and
a.m.
week out.
The
2 a.m. closing.
Ooh.
I mean, close it down, because we would get a hotel that's so close that it was safe to do that. We would make since you can't eat at Denton. That location didn't have, and not necessarily in Defoe and all that. I know they had a movie place next door, but we would go out there and we would walk down to LSA Burgers. So we would
It does
make
look
an
like
evening of
something
it.
good to eat at Denton. Like in the Denton Square area.
But yeah, I mean, you got stuff great to eat. LSA Burger really spoke to us. So, we go down to LSA Burger, probably start the night off there, maybe have something to drink there because they always have a good selection. Same theme as Denton in that they've got pretty unique options. And then, of course, you go down to Denton, you've got that tap wall, that massive tap wall. And, we're fans of, I'm certainly a fan of cider, and Tracy ventures out a little bit more than that. But, going down there and having something like a Finn River on tap, which was very commonplace at Denton, I think 52 taps, if I remember correctly, on the wall.
That is correct.
And
in fact, our my Killer Queen team that was scheduled to play in our postponed or canceled Killer Queen event, this spring series was named Tap 52 after that. The 52nd tap, which was coffee.
there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so I've got all kinds of unique memories because of that. We did that. We followed that routine that I just mentioned week after week. I would be willing to say for a 2 or 3 month period.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a lot of fond memories. I mean, I could roll several of them off, right? So I love the Denton Heat Re thing. We were there playing it the first week. It was out on the floor. It was a high score challenge for the month, and so I remember that very fondly. The Star Trek machine that was there, Aerosmith. I mean, several of the pinballs, Scared Stiff, and then other things. The Adams Family was in the back, and we could literally follow through the whole rotation from that very first rotation that was out all the way up to the kind of Halloween themed ones or monster themed ones, depending on how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And just all the unique machines that were there that may go unappreciated. The Gauss cocktail that was in the corner when you step into the back room.
Yeah, so I remember sitting with Lonnie for 5 hours on that thing.
Yeah, good old Lonnie. For those of you who don't know, Lonnie McDonald, who's he's not the world record holder in joust, but he's known for going. He's rolled over, which is roll over at 10 million, takes 5+ hours. Rolled over a joust in every state. He's actually going to end his tour very soon. He's done 245. He's building out his schedule to 250. So he visited that location, rolled that over. One of the few joust cocktails he's played in that 250 because the joust cocktail is very, very rare, and yet at the same time, I've seen more of them converted to something other than joust, and it just makes you want to cry. But fond memories of things like that, and even more. I guess you would say mundane things like I was up there one evening again in that series of 2 or 3 months, and we were going out there on the regular, and someone was they just struck up a conversation about Galaga, and I wasn't playing. I think they were playing, and they were talking about something, and I just kind of casually walked by and made a reference, and they're like, "Oh, do you like Galaga too?" Well, I wound up showing them some stuff on Galaga and staying there. And I don't know if you remember this, Chris. It was at the time when they had decided to put the Speedfire on the ROMs for Galaga, which is a ROM replacement, for those of you who don't know. And if you do that, and Chris knows this, but for those who don't, once you get to level 255, the game resets, whereas on the slow fire, it doesn't reset. And by reset, it's your game's over. So you can get about 3.3 million, 3.4 million before the game ends because the game resets. And so I was actually telling this guy about it, how he could actually tell, be it slow fire or fast fire, when this would happen. And so he wanted me to show him. So I literally stayed there and just talked this guy through, I don't know, 2.5, 3 hour game, however long it takes. And we sat there and talked the whole time. And I clocked it to 255, literally within about 30 minutes of closing it down at 2 a.m. So I remember just fun conversations like that. I remember you and Jason Palmer being up front one day, and I think y'all were actually starting to come towards me because you heard this unbelievable racket coming from track and field, and you were like,
Yeah.
"What is going on down there?" And you're like, "Oh my God, that's awesome! What is he doing to that poor machine?" And then we got into a conversation about that, the unique tapping technique that some use, which I also employ, which unfortunately makes a god awful racket on a machine, but that was when you were like, "Hey, do you realize you've already beaten the score at the time? That was a record for free play." So yeah, it was just
Which was
there's
a
a lot of fun
long-standing
there.
record, by the way.
Yeah, it was, and I played track and field back in the day, but I don't know if I ever shared this with you. I never played it on tournament mode. So when I played it back in the day, I didn't realize you could put it on tournament mode and just go again and again and again and again. But I was actually fairly decent at it. So like to do a non-tournament mode game where you can only go through once and the high jump there at the end is pretty much the end of your game, however high you can go. To get up to like 2.5 meters on the high jump is extremely rare. I could get to 2.5 meters, and that gets you a score of, I don't know, 88,000, 90,000, and that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
You put it on tournament mode, you can just go again and again, so as long as you can qualify. And so, I think I'd gone through it 5 or 6 times by the time you and Jason had walked up. So it was just, there's so many fond memories, and of course the people. I mean, the people there were just incredible.
Yeah, your tapping. Yeah. I gotta credit you. In fact, I do frequently credit you. Your tapping technique specifically on track and field translates to Killer Queen, and somewhat to fighting games. I definitely learned it from you playing that, and everybody says that I have the fastest tapping speed in the city. It's because of your technique, and truth be told, when you play Killer Queen, you have the fastest tap rate in the city, probably by over 200%. Because you can use 2 hands and tap like absurdly fast. It's impressive to behold, And yeah, I'm a much better player of arcade games around because of you and that crazy little stint at track and field.
Yeah,
So what is this
that's too
technique?
cool.
It's so he triple button presses or occasionally a quadruple, right?
I do a quadruple button press as well. You can't really do the quadruple button press on Killer Queen because it's a micro switch, but
Uh-huh.
you can do the quadruple button press on the original leaf spring, which is what is used in track and field. It doesn't release quickly enough on Killer Queen to get more than three fingers on it because of the micro switch, but
Correct.
it does on track and field. So you can actually do a quadruple. So you're literally just taking all four fingers, and if you could imagine mimicking a horse trot,
Yeah,
you're
so
doing it in such a way that you're controlling the strike that it's near center button.
yeah,
You've got to have a button that recoils fast enough.
here's a fighting stick, the one that I was using earlier for Abs versus the Blood Queen. And yeah, so if you want to double tap, you want to tap the end here and just make sure that you press the button twice on your way. There's a distinct gallop sound to it because you got to have the button like recoil before you press it the next time. But then you can add a third button to it, third finger to it, and you can add a fourth one that might not be correct. The three button technique I've got down. That's what I use for Killer Queen, the triple tap, and you can hear the three distinct taps. And I practiced on my blinker driving to different free plays after watching Austin do it. And the reason Austin is more than 2 times quicker than I am is because he can do it with both hands at the same time, which is the technique that we saw him using for track and field, which I don't even want to know, like, the button presses per second. And, like, you're no spring chicken, Austin. Like, the fact that you had the fastest tap rate in the city of Dallas is unbelievable. Like it's really that's got to be a huge outlier. What a ridiculous ability you have there.
I appreciate it. I don't know that I'm the fastest, but it was certainly something that was harnessed when I was much younger, right? To your point, because it was definitely it was really track and field, right? I harnessed the 3 and 4 for track and field, but it came from the initial, which is a much different tap, and it's a much different angle on the control panel. It came from the original rapid fast fire that was required on Fender. So I think that dexterity, it really does transfer over. The skill set transfers over to your point, right? It's an excellent tap for Joust, and it's an excellent tap for Queen because there's so many ledge maneuvers that you can do in KQ with that, where you're coming up hitting ledge and riding the ledge rather than bouncing off, and so it's a great little technique. For
Yeah,
sure.
and this also applies to fighting games as well, particularly Capcom fighting games, Street Fighter games, because if you do this, that's a double tap, and a lot of the best players from Japan actually use this technique as well. They hit the button twice real quick like that when they input a special move, and something about Street Fighter, whenever you let go of the button, it gives you another input for using a special move. So if you have to use a special move on critical timing and you do that, you actually hit the button 4 times.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's improved my gaming all around. Go figure. And I find that happens a lot. Like pinball informs my fighting game playing, informs my Killer Queen playing. Even zoning tactics I learned in midway sports games like NBA Jam translate over to different quadrants of the arcade. As far as me and free play Denton memories go, I have a ton. I mean, I've been out there probably more than anybody because it's my job. I don't know. You might have me, Austin, actually. But I specifically with pinball, I remember Carissa when she worked there and she was a bartender. Carissa, a bartender she bartended at Arlington, Denton, and Richardson, and Alamo Drafthouse Richardson. But she was obsessed with Aerosmith pinball, and I remember I was also obsessed with Aerosmith pinball. So we would just do 2-player games from the moment she got off shift, or if she wasn't on shift, like she would come up there on her off time, and we would play 2-player Aerosmith Pinball all the way until it closed, and then we would start throwing the keys at the people who were trying to throw us out and continue to play Aerosmith Pinball. So I just remember playing a ton of Aerosmith and having more fun as the night went on and the 80s music went down, replaced by the other 80s music of Aerosmith. So that's one of my major memories of pinball at Free Play Denton. The other one is Scared Stiff. It hit the floor for the first time at Free Play Richardson, but it was both very popular and kind of brittle. Like things would break on that machine rather quickly, particularly like the spines on the ramp. I'm not sure if that's typical of Scared Stiff, but
oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, so it found a home in Denton after a short while, where James took it as his pet project and kept it in good condition. And I would play it when I'd get out there occasionally, and I checked it out. I just wanted to see what the Scared Stiff in Denton was like, and actually put a little time into it. And it's one of the few tables at Free Play, and it was at Free Play Denton, that I actually wizard moded and completed the wizard mode. So I got Scared Stiff, where it shuts off the machine, everything goes crazy.
Nice.
And yeah, it was one of the more thrilling moments I've had in all pinball.
That is cool. Well, and you mentioned a couple of people. So you mentioned Carissa. So I remember Carissa from Denton. And then when she ultimately she did a longer stint over at Free Play Richardson, remember her finally from there as well. And so we kind of had that connection, because the day that she kind of permanently moved over to Richardson, she was like, hey, I remember you from Denton. I was like, hey, I remember you from Denton, right? And then you think of people like, we could forget Emily Nichols, right? I mean, the number of times that Emily was there closing it down when we were there were numerous. But same thing could be said of Carissa. In fact, I remember, for whatever reason, I do remember Emily and Carissa being there, closing it down on several occasions, and Gavin too, which you've got in the picture there. So the three of them that happen to be in that picture, Gavin, of course, in the picture there with Emily. Yeah, very, very fond memories of that entire gang. They knew us quite well, because we would frequent it so much. So there was that period of time where, yeah, they were like the gang that knew us. And then, of course, who could forget Cody? Cody was out there for the longest of times before he eventually moved over to Arnie. So Cody Boss Rawls. So yeah, who could forget, right? And Cody was always one of those that would meet us at the door, and he's like, "Hey, I've got this new cider. You definitely have to try it out." I mean, yeah, again, the fond memories, right?
Yeah. Cody's the ultimate beer nerd in the Free Play universe. He was perfect for Free Play Denton because he had 52 taps to play with. Or he was not perfect for Denton because he had 52 taps to play with, depending on if you are a customer or not. Yeah, he was great in that role. Man, I didn't get to hang out enough with Levi. I've met Levi several times, but usually when I'm out there, there's a bit of a crowd. He's childhood friends with Lauren Featherstone. So I've been in the building with the three of them before, and no one gets in between Lauren and Levi when they're both in the building. So I haven't had as much time with Levi as you. We did play Killer Queen together last Saturday, I want to say it was, at Fort Worth, which he's a...
Oh, he was at Fort Worth?
Yes, he's a pretty good player of that. And then as far as Emily, like she's she became a community liaison. I miss my coworker. Like, we're the bond there is like sister. It just same with Carissa. So many war stories of working together until close and after, and closing up shop and dealing with all the trials and tribulations in both this world and the world of 2019 and before, all together. Carissa was the to-go bartender when Free Play Richardson was to go. So, yeah, definitely going to miss my coworkers and miss Free Play Denton overall.
Yeah, without a doubt, and I obviously I misspoke Levi. It's been so long, and I'm horrible with names, but Levi, I remember fondly as well. And yeah, I did know the linkage because the Featherstones would show up frequently, and like you said, there was an instant awareness that Lauren had a long-term, friendly relationship with Levi. It was like they were, brother and sister almost. So yeah,
Very
you're
much,
definitely
yes.
right there.
Yeah, and there was a lot of those relationships in Denton. The Denton Finance Clan, our resident fighting game community that Shannon here is a part of, and myself, I guess we both have our financial names. I'm Bear Market. She's what's your name?
The treasurer.
Yes. I thought you
Here's.
had to hit the R extra hard though.
Do I?
I don't know. Everybody tells me to call you the treasurer.
Yeah, that's because everyone thinks pirate's favorite letter is R,
Mm-hmm.
but it's actually the C.
The C? What's the C word?
The C.
Oh, my bad.
Like behind Austin right there.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Where is that picture from, Austin?
Oh, that is from California, and I believe that was one of the beaches in the Malibu area. I'd stopped at along the way. That was I don't know if you remember when you did it was kind of a points contest where, people would take the pictures of themselves, free play on the road.
Yes.
And so I would stop frequently. And that just happened to be, I guess, 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually traveling quite a lot because my responsibility was global in nature at the time. And so I found myself traveling. Pretty sure that's either Malibu or it's just outside of San Diego, one of the two. And I was driving out because I remember that series of photos. I had 2 trips out to California, and I think that wasn't long before I had to go like overseas to Europe. And I remember someone commented on that picture. I remember because someone commented like, "Hey man, you're always on a beach, and then you take another picture and you're on another beach." And it's like, what do you do for work?
Beach bum. That's you.
Beach bum. That's
Yeah.
it.
And then you go to arcades in your leisure time.
Exactly.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I'll definitely miss Denton. I already miss the people of Denton. Something about the camaraderie there, like really. The Denton players, like they were new to the games because Denton was the 3rd location to open. So I know particularly the Finance Clan, the fighting game group, they were newer. They were not as practiced or skilled or whatever, but they were so dedicated to each other that the game didn't matter. Nothing mattered except getting together and playing games together. They truly served as the battery, Emily included, like the battery of the different communities around the Metroplex, because they would always bring their spirit to every event, and in fact they still do. I've seen them out several times. In fact, I haven't had a day without seeing somebody who lives in Denton at one of the free plays since the closing of Free Play Denton. So shout outs to them. Hopefully the world puts itself back on its head, and we can open up another Free Play Denton. I'll miss the beer
without a
hall as
doubt.
well.
With a kitchen. I think that's what happened here. It was just divine intervention. It had to shut down so that it could reopen elsewhere with a kitchen.
Fair enough. I do like those barbecue toast sandwiches. Add pickles. Thank you for the suggestion, Carlos. Yeah, never had that at Denton. So how is Metallica going, Austin?
Metallica is going quite well. I didn't mention it before, and I certainly didn't want to sound down on anything. It's got a switch issue with Sparky. I knew that before we even bought it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not unheard of with that game to have a switch issue with Sparky. And I'll tell you, I'm human in that I haven't looked at it yet. So we're kind of playing it knowing that it's registration of the switch on Sparky is to say that it's not optimal would be an understatement. You've got to hit it at a certain speed, kind of, I would say, lower in power. You've almost got to lob it up there and hit a center strike on Sparky for it to register. And for those of you who don't know, it's got a set up where it's got an opto in front of it that you pass across And then it's got the switch will register you center mass. It'll actually register as 2 hits if you hit center mass. And so normally you can just wail away at it. Well, you can't wail away at this one. In fact, if you wail away and hit this one hard because it doesn't register and position correctly, it'll actually go up over the ramp at the back. And so we're actually using that as a means by which we can kind of hone our skills even further. You're in essence kind of making the game a little bit more difficult, because then you go into certain modes and you can't play them the way you normally would when you're focusing on getting to the line, picking them into the line, as we talked about on a previous conversation. Even with Sparky down the way he is right now, I've gotten 3 of the 4 towards the end of the line. So I know David said it took him a while to get there. So end of the line will certainly be a target. And like I said, we've kind of left Sparky limping along for that reason that I mentioned. I'm also going to replace a couple of the grave markers on it and switch the legs out. So here's an interesting story. This is one of those where you look at something and you're just like, that's a beautiful thing, but you just can't leave well enough alone. Mm-hmm. So the Metallica cabinet, the Metallica, the actual logo is done in a kind of a lime green that fades up, but it's got a lot of lime green in it when you look at the overall main color. And I kept looking at these powder coated legs that were actually made for Shrek. And I was like, I think those would look awesome on Metallica. So they only had 2 available. I've replaced the front legs on Metallica with powder coated lime green legs that go on a Shrek machine. And it is, in my opinion, looks quite nice. So yeah, little stuff like that. I'm sure you know how it is, or at least this is how it is for me. Whatever the latest machine is that we've acquired, that's the one I play. Mm-hmm. And so and you probably can tell, our perhaps biggest impact to this whole pandemic situation is that we've acquired more pinball machines. And I'm laughing about it. I'm laughing about it because it's, if you followed along, right, with the number of machines that we've changed out in the past 2 months, I think it's safe to say we would be nowhere near the number of machines we have now if it weren't for wanting to really kind of keep ourselves entertained. Mm-hmm. Things that we really appreciate coming out to free play, gameplay. I mean, we became, so we already mentioned, or I mentioned the fact that Tracy and I, would frequent Denton, we'd frequent other locations for certain reasons. We like going to every location because they each have their own personality. We love going to Fort Worth for certain reasons, right? Love going to Richardson for others. But we gravitate towards Arlington because of all the pinball machines, right? And so the fact that I don't necessarily sit home and play console games or anything like that, like we don't even have any, it really does lend itself to us wanting to play pinball together. So Tracy and I will go in and play pinball. And even though we've got them at home, for us to go in there and play for an hour, it's kind of unique because by the time we finish work and everything, right? Well, that's kind of what we do. So it literally, we would acquire Alice Cooper. I'd go play Alice Cooper. We'd go acquire The Simpsons. I'd go play The Simpsons. We acquired Walking Dead, went and played that. So I'm just kind of doing nothing but playing Metallica right now.
Yeah.
And I really forgot, I guess, just how good a machine it is, because when I first fell in love with it over at Free Play Arlington, as I'd mentioned on a previous podcast, I hadn't played the machine before. It was a 2013 release. Time wise, it was well before we had re-engaged our love with pinball, the Free Play, right? So it was in that gap of a machine I didn't have any experience with, and fell in love with it at Arlington. And now that we own it, I mean, we don't regret it for sure. So we're liking it.
That's cool. What's your top score so far?
Something like 279 million, something like that.
I think that would have you number 1 if it were at Free Play Arlington this month, doing David's challenge.
The GC on it was 202 when we got it. Mm-hmm. And I GC'd it second day, Tracy. I think I GC'd it the second day. Mm-hmm. And I think we've beaten every score on it but one. So basically we've shut them all down but one. And I think we've gotten most of the mode scores. And the only thing I think we don't have right now is end of the line. And it's this machine has never been into the lines because
yeah.
it's got the default score.
Yeah, I got around. I can't remember exactly what I scored. I had the top score for most of the month in Metallica, and it was but I managed to get mine without the what's the it's a scoop on the right, the thing that activates extra ball.
Yeah. So the scoop on the right activates extra ball,
Mm-hmm.
and it also is the one that you use to collect all the points when you go into different modes.
Right. So I didn't have that. If I made that shot, it wouldn't register and it would shoot it back out.
Okay.
So no extra balls and no ability to collect on the big jackpots, but I still managed to get over 200 million, which held up for quite a while.
Yeah, mine's highest 27 million.
Yeah, it was the grand champion score at the time. I think someone's since put like 250 million on it, but it was good enough. It was good enough that I wasn't playing any more Metallica, and I definitely let Andrew know while I was playing the game. I was like, look, it's not working. He's like, are you sure? And I was like, watch, clunk, clunk, clunk. No extra ball. So he got that fixed shortly thereafter. But I had already put in my game of Metallica for the month.
I'm hoping to. Oh, I can't go back. Never mind. The month's almost over. Well, I'll go back for the next month.
Yeah. No, I this has been fun. I hope David does it again and switches up the tables a little bit so we have other tables to play. But it's been a fun thing. There haven't been a ton of players playing it. It's on Match Play, and does anyone know what exactly he called it?
Well, you can't see. The problem is you can't see the people's scores, right?
You can look it up. There's a way.
I didn't know that because that made it kind of lame, right? I didn't know what I was trying to beat, so.
Yeah, let me see if I can figure this out. So
I've got it here. I'll put it in chat. So the Match Play, if you search for Free Play July 2020 Pinball, it'll be there. And I've just copied that into chat for those of you watching via Twitch.
Here,
so that there you
go. Share my screen and surf for it. So let's look at Arlington. Well, here we'll look at Richardson, and I'll go over my. So up here you have scores, and there's all of the scores, right? Oh. But you can also show top scores and see the top scores and cross Kirchmeier. Although Rachel just today, and I've met Rachel through this competition, so cool seeing her, a new pinball player for us out at Free Play Richardson. She likes to get there Shannon time, like 3 o'clock, and then grind away. But yeah, she's got the new top in Black Knight 2000. Yeah, you can see the list.
Well, man, maybe it's not the same for.
Rachel's a player. Look at those scores. I mean, she's got the top on Funhouse, and she's like number 2 or number 3, and several others. That's nice.
Yeah, she very well may win this this competition. Let's see. It's her or me at this point. Let's look at the standings. There you go. 10 points difference. That's 1 game, 1 place, and she just passed me in Black Knight. So that should give her the lead overall.
Nice.
Actually, with Stranger Things, it might lead us to a tie. No, that's not true. She's taking away points. So there you go.
So on mobile, I can't see any of that. That's why I didn't think scores were posted.
You should be able to. Let me see here. But yeah, as part of this competition. I've been playing. You got it in scorekeeper mode. I have been playing Stranger Things a lot, quite a bit. Have you played it, Shannon?
Yes.
Tell me what your thoughts are on Stranger Things.
I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. And it seems to be drawing people that don't typically play pinball.
Yeah, the fighting games players have been loving that game.
Yeah, lots of people that you don't typically see on the pinball tables. So, and apparently you can get the ball into the little Demigorgon's mouth, I guess that is, which I did not know that at first. And I have not made it in yet, but yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Do you know much about this table? Have you played it, Austin?
I have not played it. I saw the original reveal play that Stern did. Stern, a lot of people just reveal games now with, Dead Flip, Jack Danger.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw the original reveal without a doubt, and feel like I know a lot about the table. but unfortunately I haven't played it yet. So Tracy and I, we've literally been talking every night this week, like, hey, are we going to make it out to free play yet? And we wanted to go, and I'll tell you one of the things that's kept us away, not to make an excuse. But I actually have been going out and helping my daughter track down. She's considering purchasing a home, so I've been focusing a lot of my attention there. So it seems like every night this week I've had a different responsibility that has prevented us from making it out there. So blame me, but we want to make it out there. We know it's on the floor at Richardson, and we definitely want to play it.
I can't wait to see you tackle that thing. Give me a message before you head out there. I'd just love to be a fly on the wall.
Sure.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it quite a bit. Are you familiar with the rules enough to know, is the Demogorgon like the shot supposed to be makeable? We talked about this with Brennan yesterday, and that was like, I've heard this a few times. People are saying like they don't like the table because they can't make the Demogorgon shot, but I think that's kind of an Easter eggy shot.
Yeah, I think it is, right. And you do hear a lot of people that they talk about it not being able to make it, but that is one of those things. It is, like you said, it's supposed to be kind of an Easter eggy shot. Mm-hmm. The multi ball, the way they magnetize and elevate the multi ball. Mm-hmm. There's so many cool elements to that pin. The projector, I think we've talked about, but I think it's a cool pin. I mean, it's if it weren't for the situation we're in right now, I think we would have definitely played it. Imagine we're going to have fun with it. It looks like it's a fun table.
Yeah, it looks all in the world like Attack from Mars and Medieval Madness, which is of course two of the greatest tables ever made. And honestly, with the way the Demogorgon fights work, the reveal and Bassinet Center Monster, and having the inner orbits sort of circle around, it works a lot like Champions Pub, where you hit the toy and it kind of puts a curve on the ball so it serves it back up to one of the sides of the table. Very reminiscent of that game, which is also at Free Play Richardson.
Nice. That's a fun game too. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with it. I'm a fan of Stranger Things. So
it's one of those tables where you're like on a roll and you're hitting all your shots and you're like, man, this score's going to be awesome. And you look up and you have like, 20 million or something. I'm trying to remember the score on that one. But I had a really good ball when we were playing the other night. And I was killing it, and then it's like, you just didn't get the score. So
that's like you learn the rule set. It's not as, the scoring is not as crazy as, say, like something like Iron Maiden or Jurassic Park. I still haven't quite figured out like hitting the targets in the right order that gets you a astronomical score.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's not quite that crazy.
Do it on accident.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have done it on accident. I got like 1.4 billion on Jurassic Park, and I have no idea how I did that.
Yeah.
I just remember a wild multi-ball, and then I looked up, and there were over 1 billion. But yeah, I've hit all the scores. I've got the GC over there. It's like 414 or something like that. A million. So it's a good table. I just want the wizard mode, just like always. I want to get to the wizard mode.
Yes.
I'm very close. I don't know what it is, but I'm getting close. And I don't believe you have to hit the Demogorgon square in the mouth, which I've done twice, but
no, you don't have to. You get some extra points for
it. It's like an Easter egg. It's just I think it kills the Demogorgon instantly too. So if you could make that shot every time you wanted to, it would make it a very, very quick and easy fight.
There's a lot of
satisfying. Go ahead.
A lot of point combinations that I'm reading in the rule set regarding the Demogorgon. Mm-hmm. And like Shannon said, you get more points if you hit it center mass. Final Showdown Wizard mode, you got to complete all 6 inserts surrounding the Final Showdown insert. Mm-hmm. Complete them, so you got to get each of the mini wizards. So you got a 5-way combo, reminiscent of, as you said, right? It's that's reminiscent of Attack from Mars, right? You got the 5-way combo. You got to send it back. You got to get the demo dog. Only one is required on default settings. You got to get the Demogorgon. You got to get Light the Fire, and you got to get Telekinesis Multi-Ball. That puts you in Final Showdown Wizard mode.
You know what? I've gotten close to that. I've gotten very, very close to that because I had assumed you had to get and beat every single mission to get the Wizard mode. So that it was my my attack. I was always going after the different missions. But again, this works a lot like Attack from Mars or Medieval Madness, where you hit a ramp 4 times and then you activate that mode. You hit the other ramp 4 times, you activate that one.
We actually got a mode called Total Isolation, which is
Not
like
Total Annihilation.
AFM's Total Annihilation. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities based on what you're telling me, and I hadn't familiarized myself with it this much, so I just pulled up the rule sheet while you were talking. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities there with that game for sure. Cool.
Yeah, and people are absolutely loving it in the arcade. So yeah, I'm looking forward to you getting a chance to play it.
Yeah, for sure. Because Brian Eddy used to work on pinball back in the Bally Williams days. So they were saying he actually brought in some of the elements from some of his Bally Williams designs for that reason. So hence the reason why you have these callbacks to different periods and different tables that you've mentioned that you love so much. Cool. That is cool.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, in practice it plays well. Here's one that's weird, and it's the only real reason why it doesn't feel exactly like Attack from Mars or one of those. When the ball gets ejected out into one of the outer orbits, right? It almost always comes down and hits off the top of the slings. I've never really seen that. So you're constantly playing the ball off the top of the slings on both sides. That's really where the danger of the game is, but that's also, once you figure out how to control that, that's why I've got the Grand Champion scores. It drives everybody else insane. I've figured out how to, gently deal with that, and you can play the table as long as you don't mind watching cutscenes that involve children throwing cars with their telekinesis.
Could you really play pinball without it? I mean, these days, really?
Of course not. Of course not.
Oh, that's cool.
Shannon, you got any pinball adventures this week? Because I got one more, but I want to throw it to you if you've played some pinball. Anything special?
No, just played some pinball at
Have you been to all the locations this week?
No, I didn't make it out to Fort Worth.
Okay.
So I've been hitting up all the tables that are in the competition, getting my scores.
Yeah, I think you won the Denton competition. So, I mean, I don't see, unless there's some magic scores around there that are floating around that haven't been posted
I did
yet.
submit my scores, huh?
Yes. So I think you are talking to the last pinball champion of Free Play Denton, Shannon.
Good way to go out.
Yeah.
Congrats.
It is. Thank you.
But let me see if I can pull this up.
Number 1, 15 points.
Yeah, I just wanted to give Lynn a run for his money, and I did that. And Shannon, I saw Shannon because me and her were there that last day on Saturday, and she was grinding away, and I was like, "You go, tear it up," and she did. Yeah, so a worthy champion to close down Free Play Denton. Hopefully we can open it back up at some point. I do want to bring up some pictures. Let's see if I have them. So I got one more pinball adventure under my belt this week. Cross, as he has been mentioning the last couple of weeks, bought himself an American pinball machine, Hot Wheels.
Nice.
Yeah, he invited me over to the castle, and indeed I played it quite a bit.
Now, surely he's got that thing customized with his own cars. I mean, I can only imagine.
You are correct. So there is a car that flies above. It kind of circles around the top of the table like this. It's a Hot Wheel.
Very, very, very familiar with that. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
Yes. So he immediately took out he replaced all the cars. One with a car that emulates his own car. They have 3D printers, so they can just print their own cars if they so desire. But they have all Hot Wheels. And he ordered for this twirling car the flying Lamborghini the flying car from Back to the Future. Shoot. Doors go like this.
DeLorean? Yeah,
Flying
the DeLorean.
yes.
Going. Yep.
With the wheels sideways like it's flying. So that's what's twirling around. Yeah. So yeah, they've got some customizations, but just in that way. I did play it, and I don't think I don't think this is a table that really would fit well with free play. As much as I think it's a very good table. Very like deep rule set. It was a ton of fun. There's a lot of stuff to do with this table. It looks like a good table to own, but the shots specifically are tight and difficult. And if you can't hit all the shots on that board, then there's going to be something deeply unsatisfying about playing that. And I don't know if that sits well on an arcade floor where people are banging it around.
I think people might be a little bit too rough with it and kind of unforgiving in that respect.
Yes, and I
already
think
know.
what's
I
that?
mean, it's people are jerks. It happens.
Yeah, and I think the moment you can't make one of the shots in that game, the feel of it will just tank in a hurry. That's not a problem for a private collector. In fact, I think this is a fantastic table for a private collector, and I know we just had a ton of fun with it. It's got minute-plus long cutscenes based on the YouTube Hot Wheels series that I am not familiar with, but it's kind of a claymation / Hot Wheels type presentation. And these long cutscenes, I believe, are designed to be skipped. But if you're a kid playing the game, you just get entertained by the cartoon, and you can watch the cartoon as long as you want.
Very cool. I'm so glad that he wound up with that machine, because that machine is just so him.
Absolutely.
And you can see everything we talked about, right? The design aspects, that the unique way with the off centering that they did on the LCD, the shaker, and how the shaker ties in with the cutscenes that you mentioned. I mean, I still think title of the year. I really do. I think that it knocked it out of the park. And like you said, I mean, you could have a wonderful pinball machine, great things, great everything else, but as you called out, it may not work on location, right? Meaning that it just, for whatever reason, maybe it's one of the design elements that people would beat up, or maybe it's frustrating shots that people would cause them to beat the game up, right? They slide it around all over the floor or whatever.
Yeah.
But I still think, that notwithstanding, I think it'll be, I think it'll be one of the great titles overall. And if it's just one that ends up in personal collections, nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of great machines out there that end up that way.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I do think it is. For me, it's the game of the year that I've seen. That includes Stranger Things, which Stranger Things is too derivative of the previous titles that I was mentioning for me to really say it's the game of the year. Hot Wheels feels like a brand spanking new game. What do I compare it to? I don't compare it to anything, because I've never seen like, you start the game and nothing's really activated, and every shot kind of activates a mode, but every mode involves hitting basically every shot in a special order. And then if you hit a bunch of shots, you get a multi-ball. So it's just sublime in how they did it, but it's complex. Like, it's very, very much built to have a deep experience each game. You can get lost in focusing on a specific mode, a specific style of play in that game. And you're going to be well served by it. Like, it's fun to just try and win the race that's happening in the background. It's fun to try and beat one of the monsters, one of them. And beating them is like near wizard mode level of difficulty as it is, especially with the tight shots that it requires. That being said, you were talking about a shot that might make you beat up the machine because it's so rough. And I actually think of something like Stranger Things hitting the top of the sling, like I was mentioning, like that. And a player who's not delicate would just get frustrated and smash the machine because of it. There's nothing like that on Hot Wheels per se. Like, all the shots feel like I can make that. I just have to be on my game. And there's something so nice about hitting those shots in order and gratifying about playing the game.
I mean, I can't wait to play it. Even if free play doesn't get it and I have to go somewhere else to play it, we've got to save our space. That's the other thing too, right? It gets to a point where you've got to save your space for certain games. So we'll probably rotate games in and out, but we're pretty much at capacity right now. And if it weren't for that, we would definitely be a buyer for it, because I can't wait to play it.
Yeah. That's one of if I were to own a table, that'd be one of the if you gave me three like something like that would be one of them because it's unique and there's nothing I can say bad about it other than like if you beat everything it's going to take way too long because it's so complex.
Yeah, for sure. I love the way they tied in the RPM gauge, everything else that you do on the shot out of the gate. The fact that they tie points acceleration or points rewards to RPM.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think the execution on the theme and the tie-in is just second to none. And I don't know anything about Hot Wheel Cities either. I that piece of the animations they do. It's kind of a clay animation thing. It's a
Yeah.
it's a YouTube. I think they're on their third season. I had no information about that, but the fact that they took that theme that I knew nothing about, tied it in so well. The different creatures that are in those cut scenes and tie it into the shaker motor. Again, the execution is awesome, and like you said, it is as though they made no reference to any other pinball in existence and just said, hey, we're going to go make something that ties in all the IP, that ties in all of the other elements that we have to Hot Wheels into this game. And I think their execution is just about flawless.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, kudos to American Pinball. I hope they have themselves a hit on their hands because a quality product deserves some support. So, yeah, kudos to them.
Sure.
Uh, let's see. I don't know. Let me check the official standings here. Let's see. I think David may have us on Fort Worth and on Arlington, if I'm not mistaken, on the score challenge. I haven't announced the IFPA challenge rankings event that we talked about last week. I will. I'm moving this weekend. If you haven't been watching the stream today, so it has everything sort of tossed in the air with me. So I haven't announced the upcoming pinball challenge matches, but I will. And then we'll have is it tomorrow? Yep, tomorrow's the last day for those pinball match play event scores.
I think I still have to put in my scores for Arlington. No, maybe Richardson.
Yeah, you don't have any submitted for Richardson, so definitely get them submitted. I saw Rachel going at it. She may have passed me this last day. Although I suppose I have tomorrow to go up there and give it a whirl. But yeah, let's do this again. It's been a lot of fun. Oh, speaking of, what should we talk about next week? Got any?
No, I'm always a fan of talking about pinball machines, and also just a fan of and I hope everyone else is too. Just kind of talking about we could talk about like mods to machines. I mean, there's all kinds of various things we could talk about. I don't know. May ask Shannon because I think Shannon. I don't know if we've ever pulled the subject out that you wanted to talk about. So let me give pause there and say, hey, Shannon, is there anything in particular you'd like to cover?
No, man, it's whatever you want to do. You guys are definitely more pinball.
She's calling us nerds, Austin. It's accurate.
I think so.
It's accurate.
I think so.
She's calling us nerds.
You are not nerds.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, you are nerds. I am a nerd as well. I'm just not nerdy enough to. I'm not enough of a pinball nerd to speak about all these. You know what I'm saying? It's not something I research in my off time.
Well, me either, to be honest with you. Do you have a favorite table?
TNA was my favorite table. Currently, no, I do not.
Yeah.
Because TNA's out of the question right now. So.
You should give TNA a try.
I did, and now none of the lights were working, so.
You should give TNA a try today.
Oh, okay.
They have done some extensive work on it.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So. No, we certainly covered TNA. I don't know.
Aerosmith, I put in a lot of time with that table too. You were talking about that earlier. That was my favorite table at Denton.
Yeah.
Till they moved it. I really enjoyed that table. There was something about building up the 6-ball multi-pole, and then it was very satisfying.
Yeah.
That table was very satisfying.
I have a affinity for. I don't think Austin, you're not a fan of like later era Aerosmith, right? I kind of grew up with it, so most of those songs.
I do. No, I'm a huge Aerosmith fan. So yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, they're probably the best band live that I've ever seen.
Whoa, really? When did you see him?
Yeah. It actually is probably a tie
That is a
between
heavy praise from you.
so Aerosmith and Ozzy are probably near ties with the number of times that I've seen them live, and it's probably around a dozen for each of them.
Mm-hmm.
Steven Tyler, in my opinion, is one of the greatest showmen ever. I mean, he's practically crippled himself if you follow him much on just because of how much he does damage to himself on stage, to the point that he has difficulty walking because of all these years that he's been coming off of drum kits and everything else. He is the consummate professional. I mean, look at how long they've been around, and 50 plus years to have his vocal range, multi-octave vocal range, and to still have a consistent performing voice. He's had nodules removed. He's had all kinds of the typical things you hear that singers have to experience. Consummate professional, an unbelievable group. I mean, the fact that they kind of went away for that period of time, came back after a number of years, a very well publicized drug problem that he had, and it cost him a lot of money, and that was actually one of the incentives for him to get back in it. The whole tie-in to Run DMC and Walk This Way, the launch after that, the almost unknown album of theirs is Done With Mirrors, that was really prior to the Run DMC. I could dialogue the whole thing for you, just like Metallica. I will sound like a behind the music cut, but I lived all of that. So Aerosmith has they have a secure place in my heart. I love Aerosmith.
Yep, same. For sure. So I didn't get to see Ozzy, just side note, until he was like super old already.
Right.
And it was still a really good show. Unlike Rob Zombie, who I saw him live when he got old and it wasn't so good. But the dude he was so old, he couldn't run anymore. He had to more waddle, right?
Right.
So it's summertime in Texas, and he waddles over the side of the stage and picks up a bucket of water and waddles back, and he's trying to pour some on his head, but he doesn't quite have the strength, and it was great. I mean, he could barely move, but the dude could still sing.
Right.
I haven't seen Ozzy myself.
Yeah, I saw him late in life, 2002 maybe, 3.
I'll tell you an interesting memory of Aerosmith. Those of you who've been around Texas long enough to know about the Texas Jam, that had these massive concerts at the Cotton Bowl Stadium back in the day. Started around 1978. They ended around 90, right around that time frame. And I saw Boston headline. I saw Aerosmith headline. I saw several headlines. I would go there. So you got to realize I was a concert fiend, probably from the age of 12 to 18. So just think in terms of hundreds of concerts between the ages of 12 and 18, back when you could wait out for shows and, you'd pay next to nothing, and your buy-in to get really good seats was the fact that, you had extra time to sleep out for tickets, right? There was this concept of everybody under the sun would, sell out electronically to these big, warehouse ticket resale units, right? That concept wasn't around. So I saw like literally all of the bands from that era within the first 5 rows. I mean, I had incredible seats at every show, every act you can think of, from like 83 to probably 1990. That was, big in pretty much anything. I even my mother liked Huey Lewis and the News. I got her second row center stage seats to Huey Lewis and the News for like $13.50. But back to Aerosmith. So they headlined the Texas Jam, and the Texas Jam, the year they headlined, I have to go back and look. I think it was '87. Sounds about right. That's about the year I recall. But so you're thinking about 100,000 people. They're the final act of the night. In the Cotton Bowl, you could fit 100,000 plus. And I mean, this was it's an experience. It's a visceral experience if you've never been there, because it's taking place in July, August time frame. It's every bit as hot as you think it is. It's an all-day event, and just closing it out with them, it was incredible. It just unbelievable, again, showmanship, stage presence, and consummate professionals. If I were to juxtapose them, I'll give you my I don't mean to offend anyone because I'm not picking anyone apart here, but Aerosmith went on tour with Motley Crue several years ago. I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. Came through Dallas, and I kind of gave my evaluation. I didn't go to the show, but I gave my evaluation of what was going to happen to someone who was going because they liked both bands. And pretty much what I stated is true, that Aerosmith, consummate professionals, and the crew probably weren't as refined. They probably weren't, to your point, they probably weren't in the greatest, especially Vince now, probably wasn't in the greatest of shape as a vocalist. And it showed, I guess would be the nice way to put it. So I call that back. I mean, I literally, over 30 plus years of seeing Aerosmith, over the number of times that I have seen them, I've never seen them fail to come through.
I've never seen Motley Crue. I've kind of a weird relationship with Motley Crue because I've never seen them. I'm not a terribly big fan of their early stuff, their early hair metal stuff.
Theater of Pain, stuff like that. Yep.
Yes. I'm a big fan of, tying it back to pinball, their Sega Genesis game Crew Ball. My mom got me that game because it was on deep discount at Blockbuster. And so I spent a ton of time playing Crew Ball, the Motley Crue licensed pinball video game table, which, not bad considering what it was, not bad. Had some chiptune versions of Motley Crue songs and a whole Motley Crue theme. So I should have more of an affinity for it, and it's all kind of based around like the Dr. Feelgood album. And that album I kind of like, but when I listen to that next to the album that came out a year before, Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses, it is as derivative as the 17th Stern Table. Like, I just can't deal with how very much that seems like Motley Crue heard Appetite for Destruction and like, we can do that, except we'll change the name to Dr. Feelgood.
Appetite for Destruction is a hard act to follow, and I don't care who you are, right? You've got Axl Rose, who has one of the broadest vocal ranges of any vocalist ever, be it operatic or otherwise.
Yeah.
That's a hard act to follow.
Yeah. And to try and follow in that lane, to switch your lane to be like, okay, let's go in that direction that they're doing. And they knocked that, like, let's just remake a Whitney Houston track in her style and make it better. Yeah, that's not going to happen, buddy.
Not going to happen.
Yeah. Man, I feel like you've seen every major rock show from like 1975 to 1995 or beyond, Austin.
I mean, I've seen a variety of acts too. So I mean, I'm trying to think of how broad, right? From tenor acts like Pavarotti to country acts like Willie Nelson to all of the heaviest metal acts who've ever been around. Now, we're talking about kind of mainstream 70s, 80s, 90s rock. But, I mean, like, first show that Slayer ever did in Dallas, the first show that Metallica ever did in Dallas. I mean, like, in the thick of it type mosh pits where you go and you see your favorite bands for next to nothing, but they're just historic shows. I mean, the first time I ever saw Slayer, that image is still burned in my mind when they came on stage. It's incredibly impressive.
So diverse. I think I could live in your memories for about 7 generations and be just happy. Man, good times, good times. That's we got about 17 minutes to go. I know I've kept you a little over an hour. I want to thank Austin and Shannon for joining me for the Pinballers. I don't want to keep you guys too long. I know I always say this is an hour show and then try and drag someone out extra long.
No worries at all. Yeah, no, we appreciate you inviting us.
Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. Thanks for joining. Are you planning on coming out to a free play in the next week? Or are you busy or anything?
I plan on doing it. Yeah. I'd mentioned that part of the thing that's kept me away. Not making excuses.
I will be there sparingly.
I'm literally going to meet my daughter at the house that she's looking to purchase. We're going to go through and do the inspection tomorrow morning at like 8 a.m. So, and then after that, I'm sure I'll be helping her with other things. So, we want to come out there. Like literally, I kid you not, Tracy and I have talked every night. We got to make it out to free play. Like last night, we were planning on coming out, and instead we wound up going out to the house again with my daughter just to cover off on some things and So yeah, we've already been pulled away tonight, but we want to. The want is there. So we definitely plan on it. The question of when, and of course with the weekend coming, I also had the luxury of going to multiple locations, right? Being that Richardson is open every day, but the other locations are only open on the weekend. And we've got the luxury of going to multiple locations, and we talked about doing that and getting some more to go alcohol. Thank you very much, because the last two times we've gone out to Free Play Fort Worth, one of my favorite places to go because they often have some of my favorite Finn Rivers there. I'm a Finn River cider. Um, I guess I don't want to say addict. Addict is the wrong word, but it's certainly one of my favorite go-to ciders. And you can't get that cider just anywhere.
Yeah.
And so
Even I know
sometimes
the allure of the Finn River lavender. Like if I want to give somebody a treat, no matter who they are, that's what I get. Unless they just purely hate cider of all kinds. And generally, even if that's who they are, they still like Finn River lavender.
it's crazy good. It's crazy unique, and it is some of the best without a doubt. So sometimes we'll go to a particular location because we might call ahead and say, hey, do you have this particular Finn River in stock? And that might be a deciding factor. So I have a feeling we're going to wind up somewhere this weekend, and probably somewhere next week during the week out at Richardson, because that's certainly been our intention every night this week. So
Yeah,
I can't expect we'll get pulled away every night next week as well.
That's where I am. I tend to, because they're limited engagement to the weekends right now, and because I care so much about each individual location, I tend to go to Arlington and Fort Worth each over the weekend. So the days of me spending Friday and Saturday at Richardson are essentially done for the moment, for the time being, as I'm headed to Tarrant County. But I'm going to need your help, Austin, with my upcoming roommate. I am moving this weekend, and I don't know if I've told you, if we've discussed who my roommate is. Do you happen to have I told you?
I think you mentioned, but I can't recall the details. And
So
again, I'm terrible with names.
Yeah, his name is Arshad. He goes by the screen name That Arch Villain. He is a very, very good, like he's probably very highly likely going to win the Super Turbo tournament the week after he moves from Chicago. So a tournament worthy to say the least, one of the top ST players in the nation. He ran the Third Strike tournaments in Chicago as a TO. He is a tournament winning player of Killer Queen. He's a tournament winning player of NBA Hang Time, of which we have a league at Free Play dedicated to that game. So he's a connoisseur of like all of these games which already have scenes at Free Play. However, I don't know that he plays pinball. It's the missing Infinity Stone in his Free Play gauntlet. So we have to show him the ways of the silver ball.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and you can't fault anyone for that, but at the same time, you had to say, well, we can't all be lion tamers, right? But no, it's cool that you've got somebody who's that good in so many different games, and if you can, bring him over to the silver ball, he may find the same as you, that it provides him kind of a break from those other areas of focus and allows him to come back with a renewed vigor and kind of rehone skills.
Yeah, it absolutely colors my experience in all the other games to play pinball and back and forth. I find I was just playing Stranger Things today.
Arcade. Where y'all at?
Wow, a Pinballer site is rating. Hello, Pinballers Twitch. Did not know that was such a popular name, but yeah, welcome to our weekly podcast of the Pinballers, or the last few minutes of it. Man, you have to tell us what you guys do at Pinballers. Yeah, no, I found myself playing Stranger Things, making some of those different shots without looking at them and thinking about the timing and as it relates to fighting games and just back and forth. Man, I'm in such a good place when it comes to gaming right now with the arcade open and frankly having the run of the place during the week. Like you can go play any game you want. They're pretty well all free, with the exception of you need to coordinate if you're going to play a game of Killer Queen. Yeah,
for sure. I can only imagine. So to make it out definitely want to play Stranger Things and some of those other titles that we talked about. Got to get out there and play Jurassic Park again. Again, love that table. I can't say enough good things about that. So a lot of good reasons to go out there, without a doubt.
Well, thanks for joining, Austin. I will catch you next week, 6:30. Good for you? Or
Sounds good.
Yeah. See you then. And thanks
All
to
right, take care.
Shannon.
You're welcome.
Do you want to stick around and watch the show?
I don't. I'm gonna go get some food, I think.
Okay.
And I'm gotta get it ready for a home inspection tomorrow. So.
Yeah. Hey, she's actually in the studio. Here, lean in and say hi.
I am.
Hello. All right. So, that's one way to work on those connection problems.
Yeah, I still don't know what the problem is.
You live in Oklahoma or Louisiana, one of those.
Yeah, but man, I know what the problem is. I got 2 kids on the internet. I think I'm pretty sure that's the big problem.
That can do it. Congratulations on winning the Denton Invitational there.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, unless someone throws in some scores later.
I mean, they're not going to post new scores, so
yeah, someone might be sitting on some.
That's the only way. That's the only way.
Is Lynn sitting on some scores?
It's possible, but improbable at this point. And if
Yeah.
he is, it's more likely than not that he wouldn't even remember to post them.
You're probably right.
Yeah,
I'm not
so.
going to remind him.
Yeah, so there you go. Congrats. Congrats, Shannon.